That's going to be it, rope. No, wait, hold on. Stop. No, wait, stay back on the line, both of you. And do me a favor, take 2 steps to your right a little bit.
And this is what we saw at the end of the prejudging, and they're doing it again. They're separating them. Phil looks like he's chomping at the bit to get these comparisons in. Now we're going to find out. This is clearly for the Mr. Olympia.
Quarter turn to the right.
Absolutely, both guys look supremely confident. They know they're on. They both want it bad.
I think as a judge, when you look at these quarter turn compulsories, you would have to give this aspect of the compulsory round to Phil Heath. Standing semi-relaxed, I think he's got advantages over Kai in each of these positions. It's closest from the back,
but I think when you see them here,
you see a significant difference in their physiques. When they pose, could be another story.
Got to stay on the same side. Come on, a little bit of room between you. Come on, Phil, take one. Yep, thank you. Okay, now front.
Absolutely, and we saw a little bit of gamesmanship from Phil and Kai at the pre-judging, and that was fun. You know, last year.
Here we go, folks. Who's winning the pose?
Jay
Come on now, front double bicep.
And that's always good for bodybuilding.
And relax. Relax.
I think that front double bi is one pose where Phil definitively wins. It's just not a good pose for Kai. He has short biceps, and his stomach distends a little bit.
Okay, you can't make this
Phil
difficult
tends to
for me. It's my first time calling.
The other thing that's interesting is that Kai looks so conditioned by himself. From the front, standing next to Phil, Phil looks like the more conditioned athlete to me. From the back, Kai is super conditioned, but when you look at the striations and the separation that Phil has, you can see, in my opinion, from the front, he looks to be more conditioned.
And relax.
Anytime he flexes those arms like that, there's just not anybody in the world who can hit that side pose with his biceps and triceps and look like that. Now, from the back, this is where Kai has a chance to make up some ground. But Phil is no slouch back here either. And, you know, Kai has some poses where he's overwhelming, but Phil looks good in every pose.
Yeah, I think the side chest is a shot that Kai does well against Phil in. From the rear double bi, again, very close. I mean, you know, we're splitting hairs between apples and oranges. I think Phil's back looks more dense down the middle. Kai's looks more separated and striated. But I've said all along, I think the rear double bi and the side chest are the 2 shots where Kai has a slight, and I mean slight, advantage over Phil. In the rest of the poses, I give Phil a slight and in some cases more significant advantage over Kai, like this rear lat spread where you see the density of Heath's back, which was always thought to be the weak point that would hold him back, and he's been so diligent in turning it into a strong point.
Yeah, it's interesting that rear lat spread, Kai has huge sweeping lats, but not quite that detail in the middle that Phil does.
Okay, face forward, sorry.
And again, both guys obviously supremely confident in what they're bringing to the stage tonight, and that just makes it more fun for everybody else.
And relax. Your favorite, most muscular.
The big crowd pleaser coming up, and I think this is a shot where it's hard for anybody to hang with Phil.
Yeah, you look at Phil Heath in these poses, it's the roundness. You look at him there, and you know, the interesting thing, this is why we say you have to put 2 guys next to one another, because when I saw Kai do his free posing routine and he was by himself, I would have said, wow, he's going to be a lot closer to Phil. Once they got next to one another, I still think Phil wins this contest and walks away with his 2nd Olympia, and I think he did it pretty convincingly in most of those comparisons.
Yeah.
As much time working on their mandatories and holding their mandatories as they do doing cardio, because they know how tough it is up there, and it also tends to harden up the physique. And lo and behold, aren't these 2 getting familiar with one another? Phil Heath and Kai Green back center stage, and Chris will find out if Kai has trouble getting through these comparisons.
I mean, if Chris is right about Phil's strategy, this is going to play right into it. And, I mean, when Kai came out for his routine, I thought he had maybe gained some ground on Phil, but as they went through the comparisons, I thought Phil actually was starting to separate himself a little bit. He looked very good in the back poses.
Chris, if you were going to pick one area that you think Phil is most dominant over Kai, and one where Kai is beating Phil, what comes to mind?
And relax.
What comes to mind straight away is in the lat pose. The real lat pose, Heath definitely has a lot of that thickness still going on there, where the width does flare out with Kai, and it seems to lose it. But you can see he's really full throughout the chest now, Phil, and you know that most muscular right there, it just knocks it out the park. But you know, with Kai, yes, he did flatten out a little bit. He is tired, but he's so composed. He's a great showman up there and a true professional.
I think the more they pose, the more Phil becomes more obvious. I mean, the thing that jumps out at me is that roundness and fullness. And Kai does look like, physique-wise, to your point backstage, where physically he's faded a little bit, and I think it's made the discrepancy that much more between them.
Phil Heath.
And as we discussed earlier, Larry, Phil just a little too much for Kai, and takes the next step down the road to building that legacy we talked about.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I mean, look, taking nothing away from Kai Green, this is the best he's looked in years. Phil Heath is just a beast. Genetically, the roundness, the fullness, his conditioning was spot on. He was bigger than last year with the same conditioning, and now wins his second Mr. Olympia.
Runner-up this evening, the Olympia silver medal check for $100,000 to our runner-up, the Predator, Kai Green.
Absolutely, and perhaps a bit of foreshadowing, falling to the floor as Ronnie Coleman did all those years when he won the Mr. Olympias.
And this now sets up just an amazing 2013 Olympia. Phil Heath. Kai Green.
So much, and it was a hell of a fast year, too. And, you know, I definitely had to lean on him for a lot of my strength, especially tonight, because I can't even, I just have to give props where props are due. These guys, especially Kai Green, gave me all that I could handle tonight. And these guys, throughout the year, I knew that they're all gunning for me, and